Welcome back on the last episode of the GMT retail story, where Jacopo Corvo, third generation of the family, will share his insights about how did he become so instrumental in educating the Italian culture on independent watchmaking. So I'm here with the third generation at GMT, Jacopo Corvo, the man himself, who's earned the nickname of Mr. Independent, thanks to Waco, whom you love and we all love. But what's interesting, Jacopo, is over the years, you've been extremely instrumental in teaching and educating the Italian market. And Italians and collectors have fallen in love with independent watch brands. How do you manage to do this?
Well, it's not easy. It's not easy to answer. Actually, I think that by giving the right exposure to this creator, it would have been, it was almost an organic process, We just gave them a voice in a market that used to be extremely important, now a little bit less, but nevertheless, it's a market made of connoisseurs, huge collectors from generations. I think the right start was to open a boutique in Milan, which was our second boutique, which is it's not the capital of Italy, but it's the financial capital of our country. So there are so many collectors, so many enthusiasts around. Social media helped, but of course also the growth of a community of collectors that were not focusing only on mainstream brands, but they started to develop a taste also for something a little bit different, which was not independent per se, but it was just not the main 3 or 4 brands everybody talks about. When these people start to be curious, that's the moment where you have to take them, bring them to your universe, and let them understand and discover what is independent watchmaking and why independent watchmaking is so important today in the watch world.
But the reason why we call you Mr. Independent, you were mentioning enthusiast, but you're probably the ambassador of the enthusiasm about watch independent. I remember you a few years ago, we're just a few years apart, but a few years ago, you were literally almost running on a campaign talking about independent watchmaking. What made you personally fall in love into all these amazing brands and designers and people behind the story that you're bringing, basically?
Well, most of all, I think, as you said, the people. Of course, the watches are incredible, but the people behind, for me, are even more incredible. Being able to talk to somebody that created a watch from scratch, that thought about it, designed it, and then engineered it. It's a privilege. It's unique. It's something you cannot do it with the traditional brands. It's really unique. And I tried to speak the voice of these creators, these young guys that didn't have enough power to talk to all the collectors around the world, or especially in Italy and Milan. So I've always been super passionate. At the beginning, it was a little bit different because I was coming from a more traditional watch background, which was Jaeger. So, Reverso, Master, very pure lines. And then I start to understand and to find myself in front of an MB&F, an Uhrwerk, a Moser, a Renaissance, which are completely different. I think you just need to get used to certain designs, but then when you make them yours, it's even easy to make people fall in love.
And do you remember which one was the first you fell in love with?
FP Journe Tourbillon Souverain, it was the second generation, so it had already the Seconde Morte. It was end of 2000s, and I was like, okay, with my first 100 grand, I'm gonna buy this watch.
And so what's the first one you bought?
The first one I bought...
First independent watchmaker's brand.
The first serious one was the one I'm wearing, which is a Legacy Machine 1 by MB&F.
I was there for the launch.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
No way. And of course.
I was at MB&F, yeah.
Yeah, of course, I remember.
Yeah.
And we did also the event in Milan with the Met Gallery.
Exactly.
Wow. So many years have passed.
Yeah.
2010, I think 2011.
2011. We're not going to dig into your personal resume, but what's very interesting is you worked with your family for about 5 years, and then you decided to quit the family to some extent. You went for Chanel for 2 years, and then you moved to Dubai to open the second Met Gallery, which was technically the first outside the HQ. What made you decide to, one, leave the family, and two, hop into a completely new market, completely new culture, and to basically a new adventure?
Well, first of all, in the first 5 years in my family business, I tap into every single field, from making shipments to visual merchandising to marketing to commercial, both in the distribution part, and then of course I did a lot of retail store. I did summer seasons in Porto Cervo for 5 months, working 7 on 7, etc., etc. And I understood that I needed to explore more our world, even in a more corporate environment like Chanel, for example, where I was taking care of watches and fine jewelry for the Italian market. And then, of course, when Max gave me the opportunity to meet the Sedicchi family and to be able to promote the independent watchmaking culture in a huge and exploding market like Dubai, I was like, okay, there's no way I'm gonna miss this. So I moved to Dubai.
And I'm single and I can party.
Of course, exactly. Correct. You got the whole tree. So yeah, I moved to Dubai for about 4 years. First taking care of only MB&F and opening the first Met Gallery there. Then we moved the Met Gallery to Dubai Mall, and the Sedicchi family trusted me in a way that they gave me the whole, or almost the whole, independent watch brand portfolio for the market.
Okay.
So I learned a lot, again, with the people that were behind. So not only Max Busser, that is living in Dubai, so it was a really big help for me and also for us establishing the brand there, but also with the Sedicchis. I mean, working with Mohammed, with Hamid, with Hind Sedicchi. I mean, I learned a lot from a huge organization, extremely complex with so many layers. And whatever I learned is in my outside experiences, I brought them back and I tried to convey them in the small environment which is today Corvo, the distribution, and GMT, the retail store.
What's interesting in what you say is, when you think about it this way, you've got two retailers, the Sedicchi and the Corvo. You've got two family-run business, the Sedicchi, the Corvo. You've got independence, you've got passion. You may think, well, they must run it the same way, but you probably have run, and you did, a lot of things. Can you give us, let's say, one example that really made a change in what you brought back from your Middle Eastern experience here into Milan, the HQ?
Well, first of all, I was really impressed on how even in such a big organization, the family was involved in such a detailed level, especially with their high-end customers. So
you're talking service, like the amount of service they would give to the client.
Absolutely, absolutely. Service is super important, not only to make them feel special, which is something that every brand can do by investing money, but it's really the personal touch, which is something that today is missing in retail and in luxury, generally speaking. Also, I was really impressed about their CRM system, which was just starting when I was there, but it developed so quickly, it really made the difference. Another very, very important thing that also led us to open this new boutique, we can be a destination. So we as GMT or the Met Gallery in Dubai, we are such unique environments that we can be destinations. But the more you are in important areas or in shopping areas or in high traffic areas, the more you will meet collectors and watch lovers that are not on Instagram or TikTok or on forums all the time, that maybe knew or saw some of the watches we are displaying somewhere in magazines or during travels, etc., but they never did a lot of research. Just walking by, they see our windows, they enter in the store, they learn more, and then they become not only customers, not only passionate about the brands, but also friends. And that's again the part of the community I mentioned before. I mean, creating a community of watch lovers everybody with their own taste, everybody with their own
style and
their own
ideas.
goal.
And, yeah.
It's extremely important.
And you were mentioning CRM, you were mentioning TikTok, all this digital era. Now GMT, obviously you're in a prime location, you're right off Monte Napoleone, you're still working with your father, you're still working with your little brother. How do you foresee the future in the business, considering everything that needs to be taken into consideration, the digital communication, how you handle the customer relationship management? How do you see the evolution of retail that's now suffering to some extent because of the new policies that brands are doing? You, Mr. Independent, what's your feeling? What's your impression? What's of the years that are about to come? You're not the genius in the lamp, but...
Absolutely not. But I think that, well, of course, a lot of brands are closing down their distribution network to open monobrand boutiques. So far, this is not the case with the independents to a certain extent. But I do think that physical retail stores, especially for this kind of rare watches, are extremely important. Of course, digital has developed a lot in the last 10, 12 years, from the beginning of social media as we know them today, to COVID that boosted a lot e-commerce and digital. But I really do feel that traditional stores will still be key in the next 10 years. Of course, e-commerce will grow more and more, but to a certain level. I think that when you want to purchase something you are looking for and looking after for so many years, sometimes you really need to try to your wrist to discover more by talking to a sales associate, by talking to us. It's still really important, the personal touch. I mean, of course, WhatsApp and emails and every communication channel is extremely important today, and we could not be there without it.
Yeah, because they helped you build the business, but what you're actually saying is GMT has become a brand. Absolutely. And it's more than a family, it's a globalization of everything that needs today for a business to survive, especially in the watch industry. And the reason why we're here today, it's because, and we've mentioned it in other videos, that you have become a key players on the map of retailers worldwide because of probably your avant-garde or your kind of opportunistic, but in a good way, that you've been in foreseeing what watch independents are and the talent that arose throughout the different decades. So I think right now you're the face of the company because you're the person that everybody sees. You have your little brother who's hopefully following your orders, and you're still for your dads, but it must be sometimes
he's not. He's the boss.
It's good. I mean, okay, so I guess my last question is, what's the biggest challenge working in the family?
I mean, I used to see it as a challenge years ago when my brother was not in the company and I was alone fighting with my father, in a good way fighting, of course.
We love our fathers.
Yeah, of course. But I think that since Mattia joined, I mean, he's a bit less impulsive than me, and he managed to take decisions or to influence my father's decisions while I couldn't when I was here before I moved to Chanel. So I think that I suffered probably this, multi-generational and family.
And you're a fiery role, you want
and I'm like, we have to do this today, we have to do that, blah, blah, blah. And my father was like, no way, we're gonna do this. And then, slowly, with my brother, it's like, the Chinese drops, tin, tin, tin. I'm more of a fireball. And Chinese drops actually helped. And today we are super. I mean, we're a team of 3, and then we have an extended team.
So come meet Mr. Independent and Chinese drops.
Yes, exactly.
As the angel.
No, actually, my brother is taking care of GMT as a whole. So he's the retail manager, and I take care of the distribution part and also of GMT a little bit, mostly customer relationship. But my brother is the big mastermind behind everything we can see today at GMT. So,
including the private, the François Pajon salon, the little corner of MBNF, and you've got
these are shared decisions that we took together. I mean, it was absolutely important for us to give a space to François Paul Journe where we could display the watches and talk to the customers in a little FP Journe environment. MB&F was another obvious
The extension of your family.
I mean, we work with Max since more than 30 years. We love the watches, we love him, and for us it was really natural to offer a good space to MB&F. I mean, it's part of our history since ever.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elia.